How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode. We're on five, six, five. We're on episode five. You're here kicking it with Zain, aka the Belt Guy, and that kind of explains it itself. So today I got a special guest, another community member that everyone should either go follow if you're not already paying attention. Pay attention. Does a lot of good work, great content, excellent for the community. Um, I don't know a lot, but certain people know, and it's just that well, I'm gonna just bring him in because this guy knows. Big Dash, because Big Dash knows.
What's going on, man?
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming up so
Appreciate
much.
you.
Um, just happy to have you here. Especially again, learn something new about Big Dash right here. He's from the West Coast, so I said, still a little bit early time on that standpoint. So appreciate it. Maybe your work day just ended. So genuinely humble, grateful, and appreciate to have you here. How's your day going, man?
Man, I'm good. Like I said, today is one of those days I work from home, so I'm sitting in my home office. That you know doubles as a as a studio, my YouTube studio. So the
Appreciate
same
that.
screens you see here is the same screens that I do my 9 to 5 with.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Darius. Darius supports literally everybody. I don't know how
Shout
Darius
out to
does
Darius.
this. Darius literally supports everybody all the time. So genuinely appreciate Darius. Anybody else watching, appreciate you being here. Coaches in the house, appreciate you,
Coach
coach.
Ed,
Always peace
what's
and
going on,
blessings.
Coach?
Always appreciate you being here. Love everybody's support. So again, this is the time to get to know Big Dash. But it's not going to be the view or anything of that nature. We're not going to get too sentimental, but we're also going to kick it about football a little bit. So before we begin, who is Big Dash? How does Big Dash become a Giants fan? What's the journey here?
Yeah, so I was born in the 80s, early 80s.
Okay.
So and like I said, I'm from New Jersey originally. Spent the first 21 years of my life in New Jersey, and when you grow up in northern New Jersey, you pretty much don't have a choice of who your football team is. Especially for my family, everybody's New York Giants fans.
Let's go.
So out of the womb, I was a Giants fan, and like I said, I've been around for all four Super Bowls. I don't remember the '86 Super Bowl. I was 3 years old when that happened.
Okay,
But
that's fair.
outside of that, man, yeah, that's how it started for me. Family. One of my early experience in fourth grade. I think I told this story before too. Um, we had a field trip in fourth grade. We went to Giant Stadium, the real Meadowlands, and we got the tour, the locker room. I met who turned into my favorite player, favorite Giants player, and that's Carl Banks. So yeah, man, I just Giants from the womb, man. I've been a fan that long, my whole life.
That's amazing. So you grew up in Jersey. Where in Jersey particularly? Are we allowed to
Yeah,
release that info? Where
yeah,
where are you
that's
from in
fine. That's right.
Jersey?
I'm from a place called Vauxhall. It's
Okay,
Union
I know where that
Township.
is. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
where that is.
yeah. So I played, you know, all varsity sports at Union. Fighting farmers, all that stuff. So yeah, that's
What?
where I'm from. Grew up in a couple different areas. I had some family there, like Irvington family and Newark family and Plainfield.
Shout out to
So yeah,
Irvington, Newark, and Plainfield. I know a lot of people from all these places. So shout
yeah,
out to
for
everybody
sure.
in all those spots, man.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why I got going with the whole New York Giants thing, just being a fan, family, not letting you root for anybody else, and I didn't want to root for anybody else.
Shout out to your parents and your family to making sure you were set right from birth. So shout out to the
That's a
Big
fact.
Dash family. So
That's a
you
fact.
were there till you're 21. You move around like you had mentioned previously. You had pit stops here and there. As you're moving around, how does that affect your fandom? Because now it's like, how do I watch a game? How do I catch a game? Right. So
Yeah.
you're a couple years older than I am. There's no streaming services by the time you're moving around as much, right? You
Yeah.
can't really, catch the game the same way unless you're paying for a direct ticket or doing these other things. How are you still keeping in tune considering again now you're pit stopping, right? I think you mentioned you went to Vegas, now you're in
Yeah.
Cali. So how are you still in tune with the Giants world?
Now the funny thing about Vegas, like I said, I moved to Vegas from Jersey in 2004, and when you move to the West Coast, I still have a Jersey state of mind. I didn't know, like, I assumed the Giants played every Sunday. The games are going to be showing every Sunday, but you
Yeah.
get to the West Coast and you can't find Giants games. But luckily, Vegas, sports betting town, you go to the sports book and you watch the games at the sports book. They have all the televisions out there. I go to Buffalo Wild Wings or go to the bar, and
Yeah.
that's how I used to watch those games that weren't shown, at home, that I couldn't watch at home.
Sure.
But I'm not gonna lie, man. When I first moved to Vegas, again, 21 years old, just getting started, broke, things like that. You know, um, I got it, football wasn't there for me like that. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
still love my Giants, but I was focusing on life, trying to get my life together. I got married, and things like that. So, football was on the back burner. So I would say that, I watched from afar. I still remember the draft with Eli that year and all that. But I'm just like, you know, once I got to California again, that's when I took that deep dive again and back into sports the way I used to. So when I was a fan, I was rooting, but I wasn't, reading articles and stuff like that or
Where,
looking at the mock drafts and things like that. But yeah,
so when I think you said you were in Vegas for about a decade. Is
I
that
was in
accurate?
Vegas, yeah, from 2004 to 2015.
Okay, so both the Super
Yeah,
Bowls, the most recent ones, took place while
yeah,
you were in Vegas. So
yeah.
what was that like out in Vegas? Now you're kind of solo. Did you meet any community members? Or just like, yo, I'm really the
Yeah,
only Giants fan I
yeah,
know?
yeah, not a lot of Giants fans in Vegas. You might
Sure.
catch a couple. There's actually a Giants bar out there, but I never went to that one. But yeah, no, like I would go to the bars and you have like one other person with a Giants jersey there, and then of course they
And
see
you
me
just
with
look
my
across the
Giants
room,
stuff
maybe
on.
a little bit of a head nod, maybe y'all see each other.
Exactly.
We just recognize each other.
No, exactly. So when we won that Super Bowl in '07, I was actually at my in-laws in California, this is Southern California at the time. And I remember, Plexico getting that catch in end zone. I ran all the way out the house, middle of the street. I'm yelling, in
Yeah,
Southern California, just in the middle of the street, dressed in all blue,
yeah.
in the
Love
middle of
it.
the street in Southern California, screaming.
Possibly the
Oh
worst
man,
place to be dressed in all blue, but
yeah,
people
yeah.
understand at that
So
time.
it is what it is. And then in 2012, that's when my first son, he was 6 years old, so he really got to experience that second Super Bowl with me. And again, I got it right with two of them. One of my sons, he switched on me, man. He grew up in the Bay longer than he grew up in Vegas,
Yeah.
and his friends influenced him to be a 49er fan, man.
Uh,
I lost one. I lost one
that's
to the
unfortunate.
49ers, man.
Yeah, 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 man. Okay, that's unfortunate. So your kids are old enough at this point, right? If you had a 6-year-old and 12, that means you
Yeah.
got at least an 18-year-old or somewhere around like
Well, no,
maybe
he's my yeah.
17.
No, he'll be 17 next month, and
17.
then I
Oh
got a
man,
13-year
congratulations.
old that'll be 14, and then my youngest just turned 10 last week.
Big Dash got a big family, man. Is it all boys?
All boys, man.
All boys. Oh man, God bless
All
your wife.
boys.
She's still
Yeah.
around? She wasn't like I'm out.
Nah, yeah, nah, we all happy, man. We
I
happy here.
joke about that with my wife all the time. I got two boys too, and she was like, "Well, we should try for a third. Maybe it'll be a girl." I was like, "But if it's a boy, you might leave." Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
nah.
I don't
My
know.
wife said the same thing, man. I was like, "Yeah, you really think it's gonna be a girl this time?" I said, I don't think so. I
Not
don't
not
think
the
so."
way not the way that's running. All right, so now we have your little bit of journey. You're out in Cali. You're doing
Hmm.
great work first and foremost. That's the most important thing. You're doing great content, great work. If you're not sub to Dash's YouTube, or if you're not following him on Twitter, please do. I mean, you can see his
Sure.
tag right there at Big Dash Knows. Does great stuff for the community. Has great opinions, and he's interactive. Right, he's not a guy that if you hit up or something, he's going to ignore you. So
Yeah,
he's good
absolutely.
to know in the community. So let's talk a little bit about football.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just closed that little. I don't want to call it a rookie mini training camp. What can you call it? More like a hangout session, if you will,
Yeah.
right?
Not really a camp. Yeah,
It's a
not really a camp.
stretch. Rookies get to stretch, maybe get to know some people. So before we even get to that aspect, the draft took place. Give me your thoughts. How did you feel? Did you have any particular guys you're like, I wish we would have went for that guy? What's your general thought process here?
Well, man, I mean, if you follow me, you already know. As soon as we drafted John Michael Schmitz, my draft was over. I was
Yeah,
happy with whatever happened after that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
no, I'm happy with all the picks. Now that like those first 2 days, again, Deontay Banks was a guy that I mocked early, but then I thought he might be gone by the time he got there.
yeah.
There was a couple of guys that I didn't want. It was a couple wide receivers that I didn't want, but for me it was Deontay Banks. It was obviously it was John. I was even willing to take John Michael Schmitz at 25. People
Sure.
call me crazy. I stood on that. I'm excited that we got him at 57. But no, man, I think the draft was great. You to me, Deontay Banks fits Wink's system the best at all these guys that are there. Man press corner, physical corner. You need that, especially in the NFC East. You need that type of corner, and he got that dog in him. And
I
then
mean,
for
that's why
me,
they went and
yeah,
got him, right? I mean, we've
yeah,
been told literally that this is hand-picked Wink's guy. Wink wanted him, we went and got him. Which you love that they're taking the coach's influence, right? The
yeah,
coaches
Wink
that
better
want to go,
stay
it's not
too.
like, we'll see. It's like, all right, that's your guy, no problem.
Yeah, this draft to me was heavy Wink. As far as the defensive players that he picked, the
Sure.
secondaries, all tall, physical type of secondary players.
Yep, yep.
And like I said, Wink better stay. Wink Wink better stay.
Yeah, yeah.
Since we're picking all these guys that fit his scheme so well. Then of course the John Michael Schmitz. My opinion about this offense, this New York Giants offense is, yes, you want your quarterback to progress, but you also need to solidify this offensive line. So when we picked up John Michael Schmitz, I was ecstatic. I remember I was watching the draft on the couch with my wife. My wife's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so
That's
she
family
was
though. That's family. That's okay, right?
yeah, yeah,
Steelers,
yeah, yeah. No,
Giants
no,
is family.
absolutely,
That's right.
absolutely. And it's crazy too because they're a little bit on the downslope because she used to talk to me crazy when Pittsburgh was nice. She used to talk. She used to have little Eli Manning jokes and all that other stuff. Yeah, she was crazy with it. But now that she come down to earth. She's a little bit humble now when she talks and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I'm like I like what we're doing. And then of course Jalen Hyatt. You get one of the top wide receivers in the third round. How can you be mad at that? A
Yeah,
position of
absolutely.
need, and I think that we in those first 3 days we got three pressure points or pain points, I should say, that we
Yeah.
needed. On this team: the cornerback, the center, the wide receiver, and then well, I will say this because a lot of people talk about what we had to give up to move up and stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, at the time when we're sitting there at 25 and we make the call to Jacksonville to move up to 24. Joey Porter's there, Deontay Banks is there. I'm sitting here like I'm good with either one of those guys at this point.
Yeah.
And we gave up some capital, but it was what was it, a sixth? No, it was a seventh
It
and
was the was it
a fifth, the fifth and the seventh. It
I
was
think it
two
was
picks, right?
the comp fifth and like
Yeah,
one of the sevens. We weren't making 3 seventh round picks,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
I mean, if we're being honest, they weren't making 10 picks anyway. They had to get rid of some of them
yeah,
on purpose because you just built the roster with like 11, 12 guys in UDFA's last season. How many
yeah,
people can you constantly turn over? You got to keep some of them.
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, especially if you're trying to grow this farm the right way through the draft, and some of these guys take a little bit of time.
Shout out to Coach right here. You're not on your own. His
Mm,
pops is a diehard Steelers fan. Shout out to Coach
yeah.
too.
Shout
But
out
it's
to
within the
coach.
family, right? So collectively, you could be like, we got 10.
Yeah,
Collectively,
I
we
just
got
gotta,
10.
I gotta convert my second son back to the Giants. I got pictures of him in Giants gear. It's like he moved to California. He want to be cool with his friends, and
Yeah.
we weren't winning any games. So he's just like, and I was like, wow, you did it to me
Well, I
like that.
mean, the best way to twist it is show him all of the 49ers losses. Be like, look, man, it ain't doing nothing either. It
Oh
ain't
yeah,
doing nothing either.
oh yeah,
So you mentioned I'm gonna hit on 2 points. I'm gonna hit the wide receiver first. You're like, there were some wide receivers I didn't want. Why don't you give me some of those names? Who were you like, I'm not interested? Or is it I'm not interested at this spot, or I'm just not interested?
it was the spot moment. It was one that I was totally not interested in. That was Quentin Johnson. I wasn't
Okay,
interested in Johnson at all. I didn't, just certain skill set. When I'm looking at games, the way he caught the ball. He was a basket catcher in my opinion. And you need to when you're that tall, that physical, you need to go up with your hands. And
sure.
I didn't like that part of his game. And then a lot of people were saying that Zay Flowers was going to be available. Now my my explanation for that is I was so heavy on the center that if it wasn't JS not JS yeah if it wasn't Jackson Smith and Jigba, or if it wasn't the kid from USC, I didn't want him.
Sure.
I would rather have that center.
Yep.
Addison. I would rather have the center. I would rather have the cornerback. So that was the thing. Had we had drafted Zay Flowers, or if we were lucky enough to get Addison, I wouldn't be mad at all at that.
Of course
You
not.
know, yeah,
But you're more satisfied when you feel like things align to the way you were seeing them, things that you feel might be a reach or out of bounds aren't necessarily touching. You feel a little bit better when it might not be your exact pick, but you like the direction. Now, for example, if they went
yeah,
Porter Jr. and that's not your guy, you should still be happy they took care of a position that's, looking really, really thin if you think about it. We don't know what's happening with Adoree after this year,
yeah.
right? It's looking like whatever happened Banks year two is CB1, depending on what happens. Do they address that? Is Flott the guy who moves outside? I don't know. I'm a big Flott guy. Um, I know I'm pretty
I
sure
like Flat too.
I like Flott a lot. I mean, he proved me
Yeah,
wrong when he was drafted. I didn't think he was going to, but I love his read and react skills. Love his
yeah.
read and react
What,
skills.
what was it a who moment for you when we drafted Flat? Was it a who moment?
It was a why moment. I did know his name, but it was
Okay.
I'm so concerned, and maybe I need to walk away. Maybe this is a me problem. Sometimes I'm a sizist, right? That's the thing. I was just like another 160, another 150, another 170, and my
Yeah,
mind automatically goes to injuries because we're just hurt all the time anyway. So that's where
yeah,
my mind really goes is when I see less weight, I'm thinking you're more prone those hits affecting you a little bit more. So that was really my thing. Like, huh.
Yeah.
But from that standpoint, I'm a huge, huge fan of Flood. I think he'll excel, and I don't even know if Durag Darnay makes his roster. I don't. That's my shout. Shout out to Durag Darnay. He's hit or miss all the time. So he's hit or miss
You know
all.
what? He makes you mad, but
Yeah,
then he always makes a play, like
hit or miss, man.
a big play.
100% just hit or miss.
He'll give up a big play too, though.
Yeah, yeah.
He can tackle pretty damn good too, because he'll get down on the flat.
There's literally nothing in between with him. He's either a powdered toast man or he's a rocket ship, and there's nothing
Yeah.
in between. So
Sheesh.
let me bring you back to JMS.
Mhm.
I didn't love JMS from the athletic standpoint. His
Mhm.
athletic profile bothers me just a little bit. Now, again, I'm not knocking any of his actual tape. He's obviously done really well. Consensus, a lot of people have as one guy. Athletically, it's just a step that bothers me. But I think for the scheme of what they're running, he's obviously perfect. He obviously takes care of that center spot for a decade, God willing, right? He stays
Mhm.
healthy.
Barring
Uh,
injury.
Last time we had a guy like that was Weston Richburg, but he was also injury prone. When he stayed
Mhm.
healthy, he was good enough, right? Everyone's not a Pro Bowler. Everyone's not a Pro Bowler. It's okay to just have a good guy. He's just good at what he does. That helps make everything turn. So tell me a little bit about why JMS was your guy and how loud did you either scream or punch the air or yell at one of your children? What happened?
Nah, I scared my wife when his name got called. I yelled because that's like, if you follow me, I was pushing for John Michael Schmitz heavy.
Sure.
Every day I was talking about the center. Every
Yes,
day I
sir.
was making comments about John Michael Schmitz, and it started, like I said, I was on John Michael Schmitz from jump because, again, when you look at his tape, I call it beautifully boring, because
That's
he
fair.
might not wow you, but everything is done the correct way. He's always in the right position, hand placement, helmet placement, reach blocks, all that. He's never in the wrong place, and it's solid down in and down out. I get it with the athleticism, because I know Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann was a guy that rose, but I would always say to people, okay, but where was Joe Tippmann before the combine?
Sure.
You know what I mean? He was a guy on the list, but until he ran that 4.9 and had that that fantastic ride score,
Yeah.
a lot of people weren't talking about Tippmann being even close to John
And
Michael Schmitz.
just FYI, I wasn't a big Titman guy either. His biggest knock is just his size worries me. 6'6" at center
Six
is
six,
worrying to me, man. Because chances
leverage.
are, if you're high, you're gonna play high. No matter how naturally you try to get low, you're gonna get blown up a little bit. And I could be 100% wrong, but that 6'6" is kind of like the Evan Neal scenario, right? Part of Evan Neal's issue is he's just too big. He is just too big, and
Yeah.
sometimes his feet are just a little bit too slow because of how big he is. Plays a little bit too high. I mean, that's just a subjective opinion. Objectively, everyone's got their own. But I wasn't fully on Tidman. I liked people maybe, and I was surprised he went so late, but I liked Weipler.
Hmm.
Stromberg went higher than I thought. He was a
Hmm.
really interesting guy. But again, I'm
He
not
went to the
mad at
Commanders.
JMS at all whatsoever. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I'm happy to get that solidified. It's one of those cases where just because it's not my guy doesn't mean I'm against the guy. I'm rooting for the
Yeah.
guy 100% because, like I said, it's a position of need. I think he fits the scheme, like you were saying. So go on, keep telling me a little bit more about JMS.
Yeah. So like I said, for me, beautifully boring tape, and you plug him right in. Like you said, you don't have to worry about him not being strong enough, because one of the knocks is, oh, he's 24 years old. Well, okay, yeah, he's 24. He's a grown man already. He needs that grown man strength. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he was so dominant in college too, because he was there so long. But again, you want that guy with that type of strength, strong hands, wrestling background, plays with good leverage, and again, it's down in and down out. It's not the most exciting thing. He will finish a block. He will he will pancake you, but you don't see like those big wild plays where he's pulling like Tippmann will pull,
Yeah,
smashes the cornerback outside. No, he's taking care of linebackers and also the defensive line. And if he happens to make it to a safety, I'm pretty sure he'll handle the safety too. And
sure.
that was it for me with John Michael Schmitz. And then I was thinking about, as far as the New York Giants, man, and we talk about again how Daniel Jones is playing and things like, if you want to open up this offense, you have to solidify the offensive line. Everybody wants the targets on the outside. How are you going to get that target the ball if your quarterback does not have a clean pocket, first of all, or if the edges are not holding up?
Sure.
Solidify that offensive line, do it the right way. And I think that a lot of people will be surprised at the leap, that, in my opinion, the leap that Daniel Jones makes this year, just because the offensive line is that much better. And it's great. We still got a long way to go.
Of course, but conversely, we've seen what you're talking about. Like, let's go back to 2017 when Jerry Reese was playing, checkers and the NFL was playing chess. He takes Evan Ingram with a hope and a prayer move, kind of maybe almost like the Kenny Galladay thing or anything else. If I get a piece, maybe we got a chance. But it didn't really make a difference when you can't even
Nope.
get the ball out, or you're getting wrecked, or you're constantly being moved off your spot to mess up everything in between. So yeah, 100% with you. I feel like we've been talking about this offensive line for God knows how much of my life. It's exhausting at this point.
Yeah,
I
man.
think it's. I don't want to say if it's fair to say, but I think we're in the direction of I'm hoping 3 out of 5 are solidified. At least, left, right, center. I feel like 3 out of 5 are solidified. I'm curious what's going to happen at left guard. There's a little bit of a log jam at left guard, so I'm very curious. I like what was happening with Azudu. It's an absolute animal in the run game, like just an absolute beast. So I love what Bredesen did. I was a huge, huge fan of
Yeah.
him. And then I don't know why Shane Lemieux is still on this roster. There must be a reason they're keeping him. Maybe his body. I mean, the guy just
It's
can't
just
play,
a
right?
matter of time.
He's
It's
just
just a
hurt.
matter of time
He's
for
hurt.
Lemieux.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
right guard to me is the bigger issue because I mean, even though Glow was what we all knew Glow was, it was still disappointing. I don't know how to explain that anymore. Like Glow
Well,
was
we expect him to
disappointing,
be a
even
little bit
though
better
I
than
didn't
that.
expect that much from him. Other than I know he's going to do well in the run game, which he did, and he's going to be average in pass pro, but he was below average. Like he struggled hard.
You wanted him to be better than Will Hernandez is what you wanted him to be.
Yes, that seems
Yeah.
about right, and I don't feel like it was. I think he
Man.
was better in the run game than Will Hernandez because I saw
Yeah.
Will get bullied a little bit too much. But in pass pro, it's kind of like it was about the same thing, if you will. And I don't know how much of that is Glow so busy with the rotating center scenario and the right tackle that maybe it's not meshing for him because he can't focus and he's trying to help out. I don't know, but like you said, we'll see what happens in year
He,
two.
he when we started off last season, he wasn't that bad those first couple of weeks. He wasn't.
Yeah,
He was pretty solid. I'm not going to say he was good, but he was solid.
sure.
Serviceable is I guess a better word. But when Evan Neal went down with the injury, and then we find out that Lewinsky is dealing with a back issue,
Yep.
you're looking, but it's no excuse. Pick up a stunt. You know what I mean? You you've been in the league long enough. Pick up a stunt, and he sung high praises for Evan Neal, in training camp. Talking
Yeah.
about how he's a quick study, and massive man, this that and the other stuff, and you expected that, and you saw it a little bit. Obviously, that Dallas game was the Dallas game, but getting back to what you were talking about with Azudu, like that 2-point conversion against Tennessee that Saquon Barkley ran in.
Yep.
Zudo had one of those lead blocks,
Yep.
and the guy that he took care of, could have been right there at the goal line and stopped Saquon Barkley. So yeah, Zudo, a bright spot. Hopefully his neck is good, but I like the options that we have at guard, but we again nothing is solidified yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me, but I like Bredesen. I'd be happy because I think he did well in both directions. Run game,
Yeah.
pass pro. I was happy, but again, I don't want to now have him log jamming Izudu. Does it become a scenario of because I don't think Bredesen can play right guard. I think left guard is where he belongs. I don't know how well he would do at right guard, so I don't want to. So it's going to be curious. I don't know how they're going to come up with their five. And then really,
Yeah.
we're talking about the two guards here. I think the other three spots are what they are. I'd be
To,
curious how they come up with these two spots. So
to me, yeah, to me, in a perfect world, Bredesen is that sixth lineman where he comes in to back up the guard, back up the center.
sure,
Because what do we keep? 7 linemen, 8 linemen, maybe
yeah,
well, maybe 9. I think we kept 9 last year.
yeah,
But how many of those guys really get a jersey on Sunday? You know?
not all of them, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Jalen Hyatt
Mhm.
takes place. I'd like to refer to him as a Deshaun Jackson, Will Fuller type. I think those are fair comps. It might not be perfect, but very, very fair comps and what they can do. While I don't think Deshaun Jackson ever had more than 80 catches in a year, but he still wrecked games because that's
Yeah.
what a threat does, right? It was a
Yep.
game-wrecking threat that you had to keep honest. So all you keep seeing is speed everywhere. That's absolutely the mantra. We saw speed on defense. You saw speed on offense.
Yeah.
Waller, speed. Hyatt, speed. Campbell, big slot. But guess what? 4-4 speed. So you're putting all the speed together. They move up. They get Hyatt. Where are you right now? How are you feeling about that move as far as fitting it within the offense and what it's going to do?
Yeah. So yeah, funny. So as soon as we drafted John Michael Schmitz, I ran in here and I started recording the video. My reaction to John Michael Schmitz. So I'm like, we got a couple, we got some time before this 89th pick. So I
Yep.
finish recording. I go outside. Not go outside, but I go to my living room. I sit down. Giants on the clock. I'm like, wait, what happens? Find out that we traded up, and then it was Jalen Hyatt. Now I'm gonna be absolutely honest. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jalen Hyatt, because I did think he was a one trick pony.
Sure.
Um, and still the way that Tennessee played him, they played him off, they stacked him, so you really couldn't get your hands on him if you're a cornerback, and he uses his speed to his best advantage. So when do you knock somebody for using, their strength? But
Of course.
then we saw the clips in the Hello Rookie series where the Dallas coach is like, we know what you are, your speed. And he's like, but I can run routes though. And I really thought about that. And then when you look at him and you see that, yeah, I could see the potential of him running routes. I just haven't seen it really in the game. He's running 9 routes, he's running goals, things like that. And I think with what I've seen from him and what I feel like he has a pretty big chip on his shoulder, and I think he has something to prove. They thought he was going to be not just him, his family, his mother, his father. They thought he was going to be a first rounder, or no,
Yeah.
and he went in the third round, and you can even see his mother's reaction to it. Like, yeah, 73, okay,
She
we'll
was
throw
the
him
first one to
73.
check him. I
Yeah,
love that video. I love that. Shout out
yeah,
to Jalen Hyatt's family. I've been fortunate just to talk to his pops here and there.
yeah,
His pops seems mad chill. I've been getting a chance to talk to Mama Hyatt. Maybe I will. But that was actually my favorite part of the video,
yeah,
where everyone's celebrating. She's like 73, huh? She's letting them know. Like I
yeah.
love that. Absolutely love that piece. I'm glad you brought that
I'm
up.
excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited about that pick. I'm more excited about it now, because than I was pre-draft. Because like I said, they were saying that Jalen Hyatt could be the pick at 25, and again,
sure,
I had an agenda. I wanted my center at 25. So
sure.
if you were telling me anything outside of the cornerback, I wasn't really trying to hear. But that's me. That was a personal agenda. Now that he's drafted, now that he's on the team, I'm like, yeah, I can see, you know, kind of what Kafka is thinking,
Yeah.
with this pickup.
Love the kid's attitude. I love him
Hmm.
on the podium. Love his attitude. So I think for the most part, everyone had wide receiver, center, cornerback, flipping between the 3 rounds of when you're going to pick who. But those are the
Yep.
three main positions. They were the most glaring. The only one I would sprinkle in sometimes was an edge rusher,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
still think that's a huge scenario.
Yep.
O'Shane Ximines sucks. I don't care what anyone says. The fact that they had to re-sign him
Man.
is just upsetting to me. I mean, maybe I can do better. I'm just kidding. I obviously can't. But I mean, he just doesn't get home. That's the thing. So there's really no point if you can't get home. He's decent. He's gotten better against the run over time, but he's still kind of small
Hmm.
for that. But yeah, I don't love that there's really nothing um, solidified, if you will. There are
Hmm.
obviously pieces behind, right? Tamon Fox, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Small guy, but something there. They got the Italian guy. I don't want to mess up his name. Baldonado.
Baldonado. Yep.
Baldonado. So I mean, they
Wait a
have.
minute. You're from what part of New Jersey are you from?
I'm from Jersey City.
So you grew up around some Italians, man. You can't say Baldonado.
I
That's
didn't
an
want to say his
Italian
first.
name.
I didn't want to say his first name, man.
Oh well.
Baldonado's easy. That's why I said it. I didn't
Okay.
want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Baldonado was the
Haba.
easy part.
I'll leave it at
Anyway,
Haba. Haba Baldonado.
Hubba
Yeah. Yeah.
Hubba. Please
Yeah.
forgive me if you ever see this, sir. You probably won't, but forgive me regardless. But I still think there's something more. Like I was just not. I was kind of hoping for. I mean, I would I would find a way to get Leonard Floyd in here.
Ooh.
I would find a way simply because
Talking about coming full circle. That's full circle right
I
there.
mean, let's think about this, okay? You got, and again, Banks is going to have some growing pains, so that's
Hmm.
understood, right? And that's okay. So you put Banks in Dory, okay? You still got Xavier McKinney and Dane Belton, who I'm pretty high on. I think Dane Belton can do a very good job taking over that either money backer role or however Wink wants to use him. I think his athletic
Hmm.
profile instincts are really good. So I like Belton coming in. You got everybody else. You brought Okereke, which I'm a huge fan of. I was a
Yep.
fan of his in college. I'm glad he's here. So now you're starting to solidify some things, and you're really just missing one level, and that's just
Hmm.
that extra rush. Kayvon and Aziz, great. If they get hurt, there's literally nothing behind them as a serious threat. Again, not a knock on
Not
the other guys, but they're
not a fan of Jahai Ward at all.
the odd word. If you
He's
ever
hit or
see
miss.
this, which you
He's hit or miss.
which you will. I know you got me blocked on Twitter. I don't know why.
I'm blocked too.
I don't get
Uh,
it. I've never said a bad thing about this guy. He's got me
Me
blocked.
neither. I actually did a video about him, man. Pretty good.
Here's my theory. If anyone's listening, I talk a lot of crap about Philly, and he's from Philly, and he's hardcore Philly.
It
So
could
it's
be that.
probably either that or he's like a ride or die guy, and I crap on X all the time. O'Shane Zimenez. So maybe he's one of those. If you dump on my boys, I dump on you. But guess what, Jihad? We talked at training camp, and we was cool, man. We both made fun of Carter Coughlin together. We did. We made fun of Carter Coughlin together. It was a good time. But
Man,
obviously, that's that. But Jihad Ward to me isn't a pure edge rusher. He's a set the edge run defender more than he's an edge
yep,
rusher. If he
yep.
gets a sack, it's a big deal. It's not a knock on him. It's just not his natural. He doesn't have great bend to be an edge rusher.
He should have his hand in the dirt, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't
Yeah,
want him standing up doing that. He's much better of just knocking somebody on their butt and making sure that, he's got the edge
yeah.
there. So I love Jihad Ward's attitude and that, but as a pure edge rusher on third down, if you need him to get home, is that who you're banking on? I'm not.
No, no.
And then again, O'Shane does nothing. So there's a lot of sprinkles, but nothing really happening between the two. So Leonard Floyd to me, I don't know, man. He's and I put a tweet about this. He's a top 10 in outside
You
linebackers
know what?
in pressure.
Well, he would have to be a starter if we pay. Is Melvin Ingram still out there available?
He's still out there. I believe he's still out there. I think he's a little bit. I don't want to say washed. I just think he's a little bit past his spot where he wants to be or what you could use him as. Because
He hasn't accepted it yet.
I
He
don't
has.
think he's accepted it yet. But he would do
He's a
the same thing.
rotational guy.
Yeah, he'd be standing up. But that's kind of what you need. If he stays fresh on third downs,
Yeah,
that's really their place now. But if you sign a Leonard Floyd, he can play every down and
yeah,
part of that, 4-2-5, however they want to do with the sub packages. Obviously not for coverage, but as far as
yeah.
rushing and all that, I'm dying for that little extra piece, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because I just want it there. But I'm expecting some things out of this defense, man.
Yeah, yeah. For me, Wink surprised me because last year I thought that secondary was going to be a big weakness, and it ended up being the run defense more
Sure.
than the secondary. So
Oof.
Wink was able to cover up some deficiencies with the secondary. And now you look at this year, even though we lost Julian Love, I would still say that our secondary room as a whole is in better shape than it was last year. Just starting off, just thinking about the depth. So now, figure last year was Adoree Jackson, and then we had Fabian Moreau. And now this year we have Adoree Jackson, and then we have Deontay Banks, and then the kid from Detroit, Awarie, and then we have, Cordell Flott. Then we have what's the other guy's name? Sheesh.
Aaron Robinson? You already mentioned Aaron
Well,
Robinson.
Aaron Robinson's coming back off. We still need to see what's going on. But just those guys alone, you have better depth than what
Yeah,
we had last year.
sure,
And then you look at
absolutely.
the safety spot again is McKinney, and then who's going to be that guy next to McKinney? Is it going to be Bobby McCain? Is it going to be Belton?
Sure.
Is it going to be one of these rookies possibly?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
It's going to be interesting. Now we sprinkle back to the draft. Yeah, I think you were in that space I jumped in, and I don't know why I went into that space, but sometimes I go into some
I'm in a
spaces.
lot of spaces, man.
Yeah, I'll be seeing you in there.
Yeah,
I'll be seeing you in there. So I was like, all right, let me see what this is about. So I jump into this space, and I know you were in there. They had like the 40-minute discourse on Eric Gray about why Eric Gray wasn't the pick and why, oh my God, did we get Eric Gray when we could have had this? I don't know about
I like
everybody
Eric
else, but
Gray.
I like Eric Gray,
I like
man.
Eric Gray too.
I thought that was a sneaky, really good sneaky pick. And guess what? I saw a big dash tweet about that. I was like, me and this guy, at least we're on this one pick right here. Tell
Nah,
me,
yeah,
here's me, right? Eric Gray for me at the not even the cost. I mean, the cost control, itself is
hmm
is is amazing. For 4 years of him, he's good. He's
yeah,
productive.
yep,
Fine. So what if he's a one cut guy? Who cares? Is that a bad thing? I mean, he's moving forward, right? Isn't that not what they're supposed to do? Running backs move forward. And he is a 3 down back. He can catch out of the backfield.
yes he is.
So I'm a personal fan. Um, Oh, hold on, wait, Becca, come on, man. Yes, I'm looking. Why you got to do this? This is inappropriate. I might have to ban you for putting this, Becca. But yeah, I like Eric Gray. Tell me a little about your thoughts on Eric Gray.
I'm a big fan of Eric Gray. His whole game. Only knock is the long speed for him,
Sure.
but he's quicker than fast. He reminds me of Ahmad Bradshaw. He reminds me of Bradshaw. Well, he doesn't waste any time, but he still has some wiggle to him. He, one cut guy, get up the field, but he has that elusiveness too. He has that burst, so he can get you for 20 yards. He can get you to 20 yards. Now, if you get past 25, 30 yards, he's getting caught from behind. But I
Yeah.
like everything about him. He has good hands. Oklahoma used him in all of their schemes. Again, I was watching a Kansas State game, and first 2 plays of the game, he's out there catching passes in the flat.
Yep.
And he's making things work with that. And his first 2 touches of passes, and then he has a strong game in there. I think for him, I think Kafka needs to be honest. I think we need a good rotation of running backs. Not, and I think that if you take some of the load away from Saquon Barkley, it actually helps him to stay healthy all year
Sure,
long.
sure.
And then
Need
again,
some rest.
you have that change of pace.
Yeah,
So if you have a guy like Eric Gray, you're not. And it sounds crazy when you say it. When you got a guy like Eric Gray and you take Saquon Barkley off the field, you still have a player there. Not
right.
saying that he's as good as Saquon Barkley, but
Absolutely
he
not.
can make some things happen.
And you
Like he
don't have
can
to
make some
change.
things happen.
You don't have to change the playbook. You could run the
Absolutely.
same play. You don't have to go now. Okay, well,
Absolutely.
Brightwell's coming in, Breed is coming in. Now I might have to
Yep.
change the play calling because of the sub here. The sub can theoretically and conceptually handle the same playbook as a
Hmm.
Barkley. So you should be excited about that. And to me, I mean, as soon as they drafted him, I'll say it here too. He's already RB2 for me. I'm
Yeah.
already
Oh,
putting him at
without a
RB2.
doubt.
Yeah, I mean,
Like we had those arguments about Breda.
yeah.
No, this kid is RB2.
Yeah,
Day
I'm not even,
one.
I don't even know if Breida makes the roster. And if he does, then Brightwell
Yeah.
can't. One or the other. I don't see four
That's the
running back.
storyline.
That's gonna be interesting.
That's the
Yeah,
storyline
assuming
there.
everyone stays healthy, I don't think Brightwell or I mean Brightwell at least gives you specials, right? I don't know. It's gonna
Yeah.
be interesting. This is
Yeah.
gonna be an interesting 53
You know
because
who loses out? You know who loses out in this whole thing? Corbin.
yeah,
Corbin.
yeah,
Deshaun Corbin.
hundred
I
percent.
wanted to see him on the field. But it is what it is now.
Yeah. Now you got the sixth and seventh, and there was a couple of eyebrow raisers. It was like, what a they went back to ODU, but this is this regime ODU and not the other regime ODU where they picked up X-Fan with the 99th
Yeah.
and the third. Trey Hawkins, um, I mean athlete traits
Yeah.
through the roof.
Hmm.
We're getting all these leaked information that they're so high on him. Don't be surprised if he takes cornerback. To me, all I heard was bye bye Rodarius Williams. That's what I heard. Rodarius Williams is gone. That's what I'm hearing because this is again, this is now supplementing lack of production and lack of depth. So those are
Yeah.
the things that I'm kind of hearing. I'm not expecting him to be like cornerback 2 or cornerback 1, but I'm interested in what I am hearing about that they're excited about him, that another hand-picked guy that they think can do certain things. What do you think about that pick?
Yeah. So it takes me back to the 2022 draft where we got into some of those late picks, and I'm like, well, this guy's not even on my radar. Like who was Trey Hawkins?
Yep.
So I didn't know who he was. I saw when they announced it, I saw his size, his height, his weight, and then they didn't have any clips on him. So me, I go right to YouTube trying to
Yes,
find
sir.
out who this kid is, and then I find out, okay, well his RAS score is through the roof. I think
Yep.
it was like a 99, it was a 9.99, something like it was crazy,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
almost 6'3", almost 200 pounds, and it
Long.
makes sense because I'm thinking about Wink. I'm like, okay, Wink likes physical, cornerbacks, physical secondary, and to me, I'm like, okay, yes, this man is drafted as a cornerback. Can he have some versatility as a safety? Because the more versatile he is, especially being picked where he was picked, he has to be able to make this roster.
Absolutely.
And the more versatile he is, if he can play cornerback, if he can play safety, I think he has a better chance of sticking with the team. Now, again, at the point, I didn't know how high the team was on him. I didn't know he came in for a 30-30 visit or the top 30 visit. I didn't know that. So
Yep.
they're high on him. I think he has a real chance of making this team, and they're going to give him every chance in training camp and in preseason, for him to get a roster spot. So we'll
Yeah,
get to see what happens.
we need to improve specials, man. Specials was ugly last year. All right,
Yeah.
there were times when the Scottish Hammer was not hammering nothing, but then
Yeah.
when he did, the coverage was nowhere to be found. There was never any synergy between the punt team, the coverage team, the return
Yeah.
team. There was always something missing. So I mean, just adding hopefully speed is a plus to special teams. Same thing with Owens. Owens is a safety they picked up.
Hmm.
Again, through the roof in traits. You're betting on traits at this point. Another guy who you expect that if you're going to make this team, you better you better be killing it on specials, like you said. So, did you do the or who was that when Jordan Riley was picked? Because I'm pretty sure 99% of Giants fans, if not
Yeah.
anyone watching the draft, was like, "Who's that?"
Yeah. Another guy not on my radar. And the crazy thing about it, I looked at defensive tackles too. I looked at zero tech tackles too. He did not show up on. It was a guy like Gerard Clark, a guy from Eastern Carolina
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
was
sure.
watching, or not Eastern. Was it Eastern Carolina? Yeah, I think it's Eastern
I think
Carolina.
so.
It's one of those that I was watching. A couple. Jordan Riley, not one of those guys, and it's crazy too because this year I think I did the deepest of dives on just prospects this year, even more than I did last year. I was on it this year. I was going into the 6th round, 7th round, looking at players and stuff like that. And some of these guys still were like who moments for me. So I don't get paid to do it.
Sure.
Like yeah.
Yeah,
So
of course.
it's some
I
guys
mean,
that you
look,
miss, but
you're
one,
married, you got kids, you
yeah.
got a life outside of this.
But once we draft him again, I go straight to YouTube. I try to find some actual games instead of just highlights because there's no real highlights on Jordan Riley. You can look at the Oregon's defense versus another team where they have cut-ups, which I
Sure.
like to do that too. But again, you have a guy who's 6'3", 320 pounds, 330 pounds almost, with good feet for a guy his size. And I think about Dexter Lawrence, not saying, as far as skill set, Dexter Lawrence is a big guy that can move, has a pretty good feet. Jordan Riley can't give you the type of pass rush that
Sure.
Dexter can give you, but Jordan Riley is a guy that can take up, the double team, free up your
Long,
linebackers.
long,
Yeah,
big wingspan, like
yeah,
long man.
yeah. And then depending on what's going on with DJ Davidson, if Davidson is coming off of the knee, if he's not ready to go, Jordan Riley I think has a good chance of making it too.
Yeah, it's
It's
all going to be who's going to be that fifth. You already got the four pretty much solidified. You know who
yes,
the
yeah,
four DTs are. I think that's I think head and shoulders your most solidified, well balanced, most professional, productive unit is going to be that D line
yeah,
for what you have between Lawrence, Cat, Ashawn, and Nacho. Right? You
hmm
got two Super Bowl winners, a couple All Pros. I mean, you got talent on that. So
yes,
it's
guys
going to
that
be
can
about
play.
that. It's going to be about that fifth guy who's going to spell somebody else if somebody gets hurt. What happens? So I mean, really, really interesting. Like you said, he's going to be able to at least make a play. And you're right, he might be either the DJ Davidson replacement or
Hmm.
supplement depending on whether he's there or not. All right, UDFA. Anything that makes you go home because the world is crying for David Sills 4.0 with Bryce Ford Wheaton, who
Yeah,
signed partially because of David Sills and also just talking to Dave's. So uh, is he the guy you're focused on as UDFA as well? Is there somebody else that kind of catches your eye?
yeah. So I'm a well, yes. The answer is yes when it comes to Bryce
Sure.
Ford Wheaton. But outside of that, I'm focused on the linebackers and I'm focused on the edge. Like you said, you brought up Baldonado earlier.
Yep.
You got the interior linebackers, Troy Brown, and then the kid Deontay Johnson out of Toledo. Um, I think, you know, like you said, when you're trying to improve the special teams, Deontay Johnson is intriguing to me. I know Bobby Skinner talked about him. Troy Brown is also intriguing to me, but when I look at Troy Brown, he's only a 2 down linebacker.
Yep.
Um, Deontay Johnson is a 3 down linebacker a guy that can play 3 downs, but also we're still waiting on Darian Beavers to come back too to see what he is. So, but I like those guys. But getting back to Bryce Ford Wheaton, um, he was a guy that was expected to go in like the 4th round. And then when you look at his combine, his measurables, and then you look at his speed, you're like, wow, how does this guy make it to the UDFA?
Sure.
And for me, even though he is a 4.3 40 guy, when you watch his tape at West Virginia, you don't see 4.38. You
Hmm.
don't see that. So he can do it, but he doesn't play with that type of speed. He is a guy that can adjust because he had bad quarterback play. He can adjust to the ball in the air. He can get that type of separation at the top of his routes. And then also he high points. So you're 6'3", 220 pounds. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to play.
Yep.
But I'm just curious to see what happens because we paid him a lot of money for a UDFA. We paid him
Yeah.
a lot of money. He's going to have a real shot.
He's in their plans. Otherwise, that payment, like you said, I'm glad you
Yeah,
brought that up. That money doesn't make sense unless they've got a specific plan for him.
yeah, yeah. And I think that there's certain guys that are UDFA's that have a better chance of making the team than others. He's one of those guys. Even though Baldonado didn't get that much guaranteed money in comparison to Bryce Ford Wheaton, he's
Sure.
a guy that I really think can make some noise. And then Johnson is those three guys I like a lot.
So speaking of A. Johnson, is BFW maybe kind of sort of gonna take a job of a Johnson? Is it a scenario where they have a specific plan where now Colin Johnson is coming back, right? He's coming off an injury, same size, but now
Hmm.
Colin Johnson has the experience, right? He's done it in the league. There's no question whether he can or cannot do it. But is that a scenario where, like, you know what, cost control, similar body type,
Yeah.
better speed, I can more or less, replace said depth piece with said depth piece because I don't see Colin Johnson starting anyway. It's not like he's going to be
Not
on the
now.
field for snap one. Yeah, no. Maybe last year,
Yeah.
maybe something the opportunity, but right now, I mean, it's gonna be Hodgins, right? It's gonna be Campbell because chances are Wandale is going to open up on pup.
Hmm.
On the outside, I'll be interested what they're going to do on that other outside? Is it going to be a Slayton scenario? Is it going to be move around Waller because he's going to have to be on the field? I'm curious how they're going to come up with their individuals who are going to who's going to be their main package versus sub package. I'm curious who those guys are going to be, how quickly they're going to throw
Yeah.
Hyatt in there. So that's interesting. But either way, Johnson's not one of the first guys who's going to be on that.
No. No. Yeah, if it was last year, you would think Johnson has a chance to make this team. And just like you said, when you're running down that list of wide receivers, last year we kept 6, maybe 7. Um, and just run down the names when you're thinking about it. You're looking at, Hyatt. Obviously, he's the rookie third round pick. He makes the
Sure.
team, and then you have Slayton, and then you have Campbell. Then a name that people are not saying much is Hodgins.
Yep.
Like for me, Hodgins still needs to be on that field.
Yeah.
He's not as fat. Like when they say, "Oh, we drafted speed. We signed speed." Hodgins is not a speed guy, but he does those subtle things to get separation. And for the most part, Daniel Jones trusts him,
Yeah.
and he has that chemistry with him. So I think when you roll out against Dallas, um, I think the starting wide receivers are going to be Hodgins is going to be on the field, and this is not counting Waller because Waller is a tight end, but
Sure.
I believe he's going to be lined up outside in some cases too because he has that ability.
Yep.
But I think it's Hodgins, Slayton, and Hyatt, depending on how healthy Wandale Robinson is. And then once we figure out what Hyatt is for real, in the NFL,
Hmm.
I see he can play outside too, but he got his bread and butter in the slot in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Do you want to just put him on the outside because he's fast, or do you want to use him to the best of his ability? And if he can prove that he can run routes with that type of speed, what third corner is covering him? You know what I mean? Who's going
That's
to
not
cover for
happening.
that?
Yeah. Especially if you just want to throw him on a crossing route like you did Slayton, right? Slayton would eat on crossing routes because no one's
Hmm.
keeping up.
Nope.
Hyatt might have a step on him. So it's going to be very, very
Absolutely.
interesting. Especially, again, you come back to Hodgins. Hodgins, great hands, too. I don't think he had any drops last year. That goes maybe back
Hmm.
into what you said about Daniel Jones and trust. And like
Hmm.
the main thing, yeah, he might not be speed, but he got open.
Yeah.
That's I mean, and that's what, this team seems to care about. I wasn't in on some of these smaller wide receivers, and all we heard was they don't care about size; they care about separation. So I'm all
Yep.
for it, right? As long as the ball moves, who cares? Um, and we haven't even brought up, and Becca brought this up. What happened
Shep.
with Shep? I mean, Shep
Yeah.
is a future coach in training. Again, I think I think he ends up on pup as well. I don't think he's going to be
Man,
physically ready. And as much as he keeps getting hurt, please don't rush him back. Don't rush him at all in any form.
I'll say this. For Shepard, the best thing for Shepard is being on that pup list
Yeah.
at the beginning of the season. Yeah, because if he's not, then you're making some hard decisions.
Yeah, buddy.
And
I
and
agree.
and for me, and people kill me all the time about it. I was ready for Shep to retire, to be honest, and that's just me being honest. It's not popular.
Sure.
Shep is a great giant. That's not any knock on Shep because people go crazy when I say it. But for me, I was ready to move on
Yeah,
from Shep because again, we're looking at all this new talent here. And Shep is fantastic when he's healthy. Fantastic when he's healthy. But that's
absolutely.
the issue. He's not always
Yeah,
healthy.
we all love Shep the
That's a
person. We
fact.
all love Shep the person.
Yep.
I don't think anyone can say sorry that they love the production
Hmm.
from Shep. And again, he got hurt, not his fault. We're all in agreement that we're not blaming him. But I'm with you. I was like, hey, listen, I
Yeah.
thought last year he was done. I thought I was like, hey, you know what? That was his last year. I appreciate
Yeah.
everything we've done.
Yeah.
Come back to
And
the
for
coach.
me, you're fresh off an Achilles, and then
Yeah,
you tear your ACL. I mean, God bless him.
yeah,
He has the will for him, and he's running already now. He's posting videos. He's working out. He's doing this and that. But to me, I'm like, okay, how long
yeah,
before the next injury?
yeah.
And
It's
before the
gone,
leg,
bro.
yeah, before the soft tissue injuries and the ligaments and stuff, it was the concussions before that. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
100%.
always something with Shep. And like I said, I love him, but at this point in time, when I'm looking at this New York Giants wide receiver room, yes, I like Shep, but there's some guys that you want to tap into.
Of
Like,
course.
okay, who this guy can be Shep and more. If you look at Wandale Robinson, he can be Shep to the next, to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, wounds are healed, man. We
Yeah,
gotta we gotta rip off the band-aid with that one.
100%. Guys rotate, but like I said, I'd love to keep him in the locker room somehow. If you got a
Absolutely,
way to keep him around, gotta
absolutely.
love the way he's in that on that field in that locker room. So we've talked a little about the UDFA. We've talked about that. Gun to your head. Are we playoffs again?
Absolutely.
Okay. You
Absolutely.
talking wild card, or do you think you're taking a step and going outside of the wild card? Do you think you're challenging for that division? That's a tough one, man. That other roster for those other douchebags is it's a good roster. Look, I'll make no mistake, man. I hate everything about Philly.
Me too.
Um, from the people to the building to the driving to whatever you name it, it's a piece of crap.
Yeah,
Um, and I was talking to DRC about this. I was like, "Look, man, I was happy when you when y'all flopped out there in your little dream team nonsense."
yeah,
But there's so many individual players you like on other teams. It's never going to be a knockabout player. There's plenty of people I would take. I was so sad with Nolan Smith because I knew this was going to happen because I wanted Nolan Smith. I was like, "Look,
yeah.
he's the one guy that if there was still at 25, I would be like, I would think about drafting Nolan Smith. I
I'm
would
right there with you.
absolutely
I was
think.
right there with you.
I was I was sitting there at 25. I was like, oh man, look, he's right there. Look,
Yep.
he's right there. And then when he did get drafted, I was like, you know what? Because my life sucks, I know what's gonna happen next. I was like, I know what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, I felt the same
Nobody
way. I
else is
wasn't
going to,
surprised.
and he's gonna go where he went. And I was like, yeah, I would do that too. So
Yeah,
from that standpoint, I think it'd be really hard to challenge for that division, regardless of how I feel about them. I'm not gonna knock the fact that that's a stacked roster, man.
it
That's
is.
a very
The
talented roster.
the one thing I'll say about Philadelphia, they got their own issues that they have to deal with. They have two new coordinators, even though they picked up the side from
Sure,
Seattle, and then they hired from within for their OC position.
sure.
You know, it's still new. It's still guys that got to call plays for this team, for this roster, and who
And
knows
guys
how
you
long it
haven't
takes
seen
them to do
produce,
again.
right? Jordan Davis, he only got a sample. Nakobe Dean hasn't played yet. We don't know
Yeah,
what he
yeah.
can do full time. So
So on paper, I put Philadelphia right there, but at the end of the day, we still got to play these games. And
sure,
when you look at our schedule, you're like, what's going on? When you
yeah,
look at their schedule, it's not even easier. It's not easier. So and then I hate that we're playing them all the way in December because by the time we even get there, who knows what condition both of these teams are going to be in? They could be
yeah,
totally, out of the playoffs, or we could be out of the play, and that
yeah,
game
absolutely.
means nothing except for
Or
pride.
you could be hurt. Somebody
Yeah,
else could be. It could be. It's
yeah,
tough. It's tough. For first, the late bye week always stinks. I
yeah,
hate the late bye week. And then you play them. I think two of the last three is them, right?
yeah. So the last three,
Yeah,
we have them with the Rams in the middle.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so 16, 17, 18. Weeks 16, 17, 18. Yep.
now I looked at our schedule.
Hmm.
The road games are one thing, but my initial takeaway was 11 wins. Realistically,
Okay.
I looked at it, I was like, my initial takeaway is 11 with a plus or minus of 2, because I think that's where the margin lies, which is fair. Just like last year, you probably won a couple games that you shouldn't have,
Hmm.
and the same way it flows that way. So if they hit
Yeah.
9, it would make sense to me because there's my plus or minus, you know, my margin right there. So 9 to 11, but my initial was 11. Where do you see that?
I did the prediction video. I had us going 10-7, and then
I watched it.
also
Yeah, I watched it.
I also had us, dropping below 500 at a point in the season too, because again, we look at certain teams and we circle them as wins. We're doing that now as Giants fans. We have the audacity to circle people as wins when you
Sure.
think about it, and and I'm just like, yes, there's some games, and when it comes to the Giants, nothing is ever easy. There's always parity, um, and it's just like, yeah, I could see us, doing a little bit of a struggle in some cases, but I have us finishing strong. Like coming out of the bye week, I think I had us like 4-1 coming out of the bye week.
Sure.
I had a splitting with Philadelphia. Don't really care which game it's going to be. I would love to have that game at Christmas
Mm,
at the link. I would love for us to beat them finally. In their house. But yeah, I got us at 10-7. The first time I did, just a mock of the games, it was like I think it was like 12-5. It
yeah.
was like 12, and I'm sitting like, no, let me calm down.
That's
Let
why I
me
said
think
my
about
11 was my initial, right? I've
it.
seen it once as my initial. I'm gonna go back and think about it some more and go,
Yeah, But I think it's all how we start too, because
Sure.
I did pick us to beat Dallas week one. That's just something that I feel in my heart.
I did too. I feel like that's a winnable game. There's nothing
Yeah,
about Dallas that I saw last year that scared me at all, like at all. We should have
yeah,
actually won
yeah.
a
Talk
game.
about it.
So I mean, I feel like we dropped the ball more than anything else. So if it's a winnable game, why would you not go with us? Like if it's a
Yeah,
winnable game, and now you added more talent, which you did, and now you're gonna
and
offensively, you're gonna open up. I expect bigger things out of the offense. Open that playbook up year two. I'm not expecting the same things. Give me those wrinkles. So I'm expecting a little bit more on both
yeah.
sides of the ball here.
Even Vegas gives us a chance against the Dallas Cowboys. They had us at last time I checked, it was minus 2.5
There you go.
in favor of Dallas. But that's Vegas too saying that. But for
That's
me,
on the. That's on. I'll take that on the road. That's a field goal on the road. I'll take that.
yeah, and I felt like I said, I felt the same way last year when we played Tennessee first week. I was saying we're going to win this game, and one of the reasons is you're not just like last year. Even though we had new coaching last year, we didn't know what the offense was going to look like. With
Sure.
all of the new weapons this year, I put us in the same boat. Like Dallas does not know what we're going to do. I
Sure.
mean, I don't know what we're going to do
Yeah,
for
I'm with
sure.
you. I'm about to say the same thing. I
You
have
know,
no idea.
and I'm thinking, with the addition of Waller, just Waller alone stops the way that Dallas played us last year.
Sure.
The stacked boxes, the QB spy, the single high safety, all that stops just with one person being on the field and Darren Waller. You can't do certain things when Darren Waller is right there.
Sure.
And then now you add the speed on the outside, and now these cornerbacks have to be honest. And then that when the defense is honest, the offense can open up that playbook completely. And I think Saquon Barkley has a good game against Dallas this year,
Absolutely.
because of all the other threats added.
Yeah.
And he just got to sign the damn contract. You got to figure out what's going on with
Yeah. So what
Saquon, man.
what are, what are your thoughts on that? I'm not gonna hold you too long on that. So Saquon, do you think they come to terms, or do you think it's he bets on himself and has to sign that tag and team's happy with that, or do you think he's gonna end up with a 3-4 year deal?
I think he's going to be upset that he's playing on the tag. I,
Yeah.
I think that. I didn't
I
want
think
that
he
to
already
happen.
is. I think he stated that a few times that he's not. I mean, in a professional man, like Saquon's a great guy. I don't think he's ever going to do anything outside of being a really good guy. It's just who he is. But I'm with you. I mean, it's clear he's not happy about it. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
happy about it, so
me
I'm not
neither.
mad at that. But man, I can't. For the life
Yeah,
of me, I cannot imagine 3 years, 4 years, 36, 40. I can't. I
yeah.
couldn't fathom it. I just can't.
For me, I thought the perfect deal would be, and this is even a stretch. I was like, we thinking it's going to be a 3-year deal. I'm thinking, 3 years, 33 million, 22 guaranteed.
Man, you and me were sharing brains. I was at 333 with 18 to 20, so I'm with you. Like, I'll give
Yeah,
him the 22 to make him a little bit happier, give him a
yeah.
little bit more guaranteed. Sure. So I'm with your train of thought. But even that at 11 is a little bit of stretch. Now I'm like
hmm
maybe 330 with 19 and call it a day. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I'm with
I
that
don't
too.
know.
But like I said, I think he plays. I think he plays on the tag. Because he's from what I'm seeing, when Joe Shane said, I'm going to talk to Dexter's people, they got a deal done.
Yep.
When the Daniel Jones thing dragged out a little bit, but
But they got a
the
deal done.
deal
And
was
he
done.
said it. Listen, we're
Now
getting
with
close.
Yeah, now we're talking about Barkley. He said the draft was going on. He said, after the draft, we're gonna go back and talk, to Saquon. And all you're hearing is rumors now that Saquon wants this or that, and you know,
Sure.
17 million, or now we offered 14 million, and he turned it down. Who knows what's true or not?
Yeah. And
But
funny thing on Twitter, his agent, and I don't know why she did this.
yep,
You
yeah,
saw it, right? His
yeah,
agent decided to respond. I wish he didn't do that because now you're creating the discourse a little bit, right?
I
So
loved it. I loved
somebody,
it.
I mean, I love it for the chaos. It's great for us. But somebody, I forgot
Yeah.
who, I think it was Taj. Somebody had pointed out or clipped something of a statement that, not Taj, like Maj, had put on and clipped
Mm-hmm.
that, it was
Yep.
13, 14 with incentives, whatever. And she responded saying,
Yeah.
false.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. This is
I was
not
like,
true.
I
Yeah.
was like,
This is not true.
"Hmm." I was like, "Okay." So I obviously responded. She's not gonna respond to me, but I
She
responded to
didn't
her, and
respond to me either. I
so I
said
was
because
like,
I
"Look,
asked her.
if
I
you're
said,
gonna
what part?
say
Yeah.
if you're gonna say false, no problem. You're allowed to deny it if it's wrong, but then what is your truth,
Yeah.
right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna say one side, don't go silent because now you're stirring problems for him, not for you. You're
Yep.
stirring problems for him because now somebody's lying. So if you're gonna
Yep.
come out and say, "Hey, listen, that's not true. We didn't ask for that," no problem. Say, "Hey, listen, we are in the range. I'm not asking you to publicly put out dollars that's going to affect you, but say, hey, listen, we're not asking for that. We've
Yeah.
asked for, a certain respectable range, something." But she just went dead silent after that. I was like, that was a mistake. That right
Yeah,
there is a mistake to me.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I asked right under that one. I said, which part isn't true? Is
Yeah,
it the
yeah,
money
I
or
saw
is
you
it,
thinking, yeah, that's right, Mark. She ain't saying nothing. No, we nobody. She not
nope.
talking to us. All right, so we got that. You got that happening as far as playoffs taking place. So obviously, looking forward to the next year. It's going to go down. Now let's deviate a little bit from that. Tell me about life on Twitter as a Giants fan and as a content creator. So I always ask these two questions. I just like people's opinions. I like the deep breath. That was good.
Yeah.
I'll let you get those two, and I'll let you go here. So question number one is, what do you like about the Giants Twitter community per se?
I like that a lot of the opinions in Giants is just not opinions, but a lot of substance, behind it. People have certain point of views, and they can back up those point of views. And even though we might not agree on, certain things, there's a reason, and a good reason, and then you have a good debate. In some cases, you have a good debate where it's,
Well,
respectable. But when we also seen the dark side of Giants Twitter, where it becomes disrespectful and then it becomes personal and things like that. But for me, I always try to keep it respectful, especially when
sure,
people are being, because I consider myself, a respectful person. So I always treat everybody with the respect, even if I'm not getting that full respect that I think I deserve. But I think that
absolutely.
all of us are knowledgeable, and we're also we have strong point of views, and I like that.
Okay. So now on the dark side, you touched on a little bit. What's the worst part about that Giants Twitter community? What's the part that just makes you go, why?
Um, it's the personal things. It's when somebody has an opinion, you attack their opinion, but then you call them stupid. You call them stupid, or you call their point of view stupid,
Sure,
or it becomes just name calling. You don't know anything about football or the word casual and things like that. You
sure,
don't have to go that route. For me, you always get a chance to explain your opinion. In some cases, somebody might lean so hard one way that they don't even want to hear your part of the
sure.
argument or your point of view. And that's the part I don't like, because at the end of the day, it's Twitter.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
ideas, it's people. Nobody works for the, well, I can't say that because Carl Banks and these guys own
Most of
Twitter
us
too.
don't, I would
But
say.
when it comes to like the fans that don't work for the Giants,
Sure,
or that create content, like respect the content, respect the work that people are putting in. Um, and I mean that's pretty much it for me. And if it happens like that, because there's a lot of people, you see it every day. They just don't like certain people because of their takes or anything like that. But just be respectful at the end of the day.
sure, absolutely. Now, what's coming up next for you? Before I let you go, what's cooking for you? What do you got going on? Tell a little bit people about. I mean,
Yeah,
where to catch you. Besides, obviously, we already see right at Big Dash Nose. Catch him
yeah,
on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to his YT. But tell us what's coming up next for you.
yeah. So yeah, but yeah, it's Big Dash knows on all social media platforms. Instagram too. YouTube, Twitter. I do have the podcast out now. I have a couple of episodes. I think I'm 7 episodes in. You can download those on all podcast platforms. I'm on Spotify, Apple, a couple other places. I don't know them all. It's not moving the way I wanted to move with the podcast, but I always upload the podcast on YouTube too.
Sure.
But I have not gone live yet, man. I haven't done that yet. I just had my 1 year anniversary on YouTube. I like the love and support that I'm getting so far. People are messing with me. They vibing with me. Um, I like the comments. And I also love when people disagree with my point of view. And I always tell them to put it in the comments below. And I will talk, like I have long conversations and comments, man, talking to people back and forth about a difference of opinions and things like that. I love all of that because I'm still learning. I'm not the greatest New York Giants content creator. I don't claim to be, but
Sure.
I just like that whenever I put my product out, um, everybody knows that you can learn something for sure. Um, you know, I deliver it. I try to be a little bit of comic relief in my videos as well. You know, um, and I don't take myself too seriously, man, because once you start doing that, you don't allow yourself to grow.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing I will always say. I'm never afraid of being wrong, because if I say something, I believe it. Now,
Sure.
if something changes and the information changes, then my opinion will change. And I'm not
Wait,
just going
wait,
to say
wait,
something.
time out. You're not allowed to change your opinion.
Yeah. Oh,
You're not allowed to do that. Whatever you say is gospel,
yeah.
Bible. You can't change it. It is the
Yeah.
Quran. It's not changing,
Right.
bro.
I don't
But yeah,
subscribe to none of that, man.
yeah,
Like I
of
said,
course, you can
and
absolutely change your opinion. Obviously, that's what
absolutely,
happens with information, right? If you're an open-minded individual, as information comes in, you change opinions because that's how it works.
yeah, you have to. How do you expect to, I, like for me last year, I was ready to throw Daniel Jones in the Hudson,
Yeah,
like ready.
sure.
Brian Dable came. I have a whole different point of view on Daniel Jones. I see. It's almost to the point where now I believe in Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
and that's why I say, you fix this offensive line. We have these weapons now. I'm ready to go. And now until he proves me wrong, until he sucks or whatever else, then I'm gonna keep preaching that yeah, I think Daniel Jones can do some things, with this team. And we'll
Bam.
see what happens.
Just remember, at the end of the day, Big Dash knows. So if you don't know, he knows. So make sure again you subscribe. Again,
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
friendly guy. I love the content. I'm always paying attention what Dash is saying. I jump into spaces sometimes when he's talking because I want to hear his opinion. Like I said, I love everybody's opinions, especially if they're different from mine, because I'm curious why. As long as there's
Exactly.
something behind it, not just for the sake of having one, right?
Exactly.
But I appreciate maybe a perception I haven't seen. So I appreciate you being here. I hope everyone had a good time. Like, great kicking it with you, bro. I'm definitely gonna
Oh man,
catch
thank
you
you.
again. Definitely hope to have you back. And like I said, appreciate you. Thank you to everybody in the comments, and have a great night, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.